So he reverse cursed the 76ers, reverse cursing your opponent by wearing their shorts.
In the world of sports, there are certain things that are expected, and there are certain things that are overall believed. And by believed, we mean the superstition. Superstition is a part of sports whether you want to admit it or not, and players are so tied into this that various ones have personal beliefs or rituals that they go through in order to make sure they don't tempt fate. Usually, you hear about it in things like baseball or football, but the NBA has their fair share of curses as well. So, let's show you NBA curses that you didn't know about. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 5. Curse of the Mask. The curse of the mask is one that many NBA fans might know in certain instances, even though it's not the most consistent in terms of use. It all started with Detroit Pistons legend Rip Hamilton. This was a very physical player who kept getting injured in his nose. He was cleared to play, but to protect himself, he wore the face guard mask, which should have been the end of the story. But according to Richard Hamilton, when he put on the mask, something came over him. A feeling, a rush, an energy. He couldn't really describe it fully. But after he came back and put the mask on, he and Detroit surged to the extent that he was leading the Pistons in scoring, something that didn't happen before the mask. He was so dominant that in the 2004 playoffs, he went off and almost single-handedly led his team to 4 series victories, which, if you're keeping count, meant the Pistons won the NBA title. And he did it all with the mask on. To be clear, he wasn't facing dregs either. He went up against Kobe Bryant, minus Shaq, in the playoffs. And we all remember how good he was. So yeah, Hamilton had the mask on and he went beast mode. He even went shooting 50% from the floor. That's not supposed to happen, and he never showed anything like this before he put on that mask. Now, one person wearing a mask and scoring, well, isn't a curse, but another doing it, now we're talking. Such as in 2012, when Kyrie Irving was part of the curious Phantom of the Garden game. It was the Cavaliers against the Knicks. The day after Kyrie had gotten the mask to protect his face and ensure he wouldn't get further injured. But in this case, it wasn't Kyrie who was going to get hurt, it was the Knicks, because he was about to take them to school from the word go. He would play 39 minutes and score 41 points. The mask strikes again. Still not good enough for you? LeBron James went and had his nose broke, and he too needed to get a mask. But he went to make a Dark Knight mask and went up against the Knicks and also torched them. In fact, he was so dominant that the NBA made a rule that the carbon fiber mask that LeBron wore was banned from the NBA. Even Joel Embiid did it with a mask, and that's why the NBA is hesitant to allow the masks. And yet, it's legal. But any team that goes up against a masked wearer seems to be doomed. Number 4. The NBA 2K curse. You're all likely familiar with a curse known as the Madden curse. This is a curse where anyone who is the cover athlete for Madden is doomed to have a bad season after making the cover. But in the NBA 2K series has its own curse. The NBA community recently started noticing a series of coincidences revolving around the video game. Fans felt that all the players who featured on the cover of the game that year get cursed by default. The theory of the curse emerged when the community noticed several players were on the move from their respective teams around the time they were picked to be featured. For example, the video game company picked NBA star LeBron James to be on their cover in 2014. That year, King James left the Miami Heat to go back to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The same thing happened in 2018 when James once again graced the cover for the 2019 edition. This time, he went to the Los Angeles Lakers. Similarly, Kevin Durant left the Oklahoma City Thunder and joined Golden State Warriors in 2016. He had featured on the cover in 2015. Paul George, Kyrie Irving, and Anthony Davis were on the covers in 2017, 2018, and 2020. They had requested trades very close by to when they were on the cover. Now, not all the players who were on the cover were traded or left, including the present athlete on the cover in Damian Lillard. Now, this particular curse isn't one that is the worst ever, per se, but it's one that affects fans of certain teams, so you can make of it what you will. Number 3. Lil B curse. Prior to his beefs and hexes on NBA stars Kevin Durant and James Harden, few fans may have known who rapper Lil B actually was. After Durant tweeted out in 2011 that he couldn't listen to the rapper's album, Lil B replied with a tweet of his own, putting a curse on the former league MVP that said KD would never win an NBA title, which he was still aiming to do, and in fact, he didn't accomplish that in his first team via the OKC Thunder. He had to join the stacked Golden State Warriors to win titles, which many criticized. After that, Lil B went after Durant's former teammate James Harden, who, after using a cooking gesture after big shots during his past season playoffs, which is apparently something the rapper has done for years, and saying he didn't know who the rapper was, got a curse thrown at him too. Lil B was nice enough to lift the vibes from Harden, but the effects might still be going on there, as he hasn't won a title at all. Not unlike Durant, he had to go and jump to another majorly stacked team in the Brooklyn Nets to get some real traction. Number 2. Cleveland curse. This is one that is both broken and yet not broken. Because once upon a time, Cleveland was a town that had various good sports teams, but they could never go and seal the deal in terms of winning a championship. The Cavaliers were a team that had various points in time where they had the potential to go deep in the playoffs, and then something would always stop them, including the one and only Michael Jordan doing the shot on them to send them packing from the playoffs. But more than that, even when they had LeBron James, they just couldn't seem to breach that final wall and get the NBA title, even when reaching the NBA Finals. Yes, this was eventually broken by LeBron James in his second run with the team, but there's another thing to look at here. The only time they went and won the title was the time when they went 7 games against the Warriors and had to overcome a 3-1 deficit, and had to have a certain player from the Warriors be suspended. So yeah, a lot of things had to go wrong for them to win. Furthermore, not unlike the first run with LeBron, the Cavs were later on swept from the finals by the Warriors, and lost 3 out of 4 finals that they went to with LeBron in his second run. And that final sweep, that was LeBron's last year with the Cavs, and he went to the Lakers and left the Cavs with basically nothing. So the curse was broken, and then it started up all over again. And as of yet, another Cleveland team hasn't won a title. It's something to consider for sure. Number 1. Drake curse. This is another curse that has been broken, but it might bounce back. The rapper Drake has a bit of a bad stigma that follows him anytime he shows up at a sportings event. A great example was his presence at girlfriend Serena Williams' semifinal match at the US Open, where the greatest women's tennis player ever and favorite in the tourney dropped her match to unranked Roberta Vinci, ending Williams' quest for a calendar Grand Slam. Convenient, but not a curse per se. When you consider Drake also may have had a cursed hand in the Seattle Seahawks' loss in the Super Bowl, the Kentucky Wildcats men hoops team lone loss of the season in the Final Four, and LeBron James's Cleveland Cavs' untimely injuries that led to an NBA Finals loss, you might believe this one a bit more. And of course, he is the number 1 fan of sorts for the Toronto Raptors, and they continually got bounced from the playoffs, until eventually they broke through with Drake in attendance. But the Raptors haven't won without Kawhi, and their season so far in the NBA isn't the best, so make of it what you will. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the curses the NBA has had to overcome over the years that have permeated the game in one form or another? Do you think that these curses actually had a power over these players? Or do you think that this is just another example of NBA players going full tilt with their beliefs and letting it affect their game? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.